Okay, so welcome to networking class. This video I'm going to make for Net 125, but it will also apply to Net 126 and Net 225 as well if you ever get around to taking that class. And what I want to do here is show you just briefly, let me adjust this a little bit. I want to show you just briefly how to install Packet Tracer on your system. So if I'm looking at my web browser here, I'm just going to type in www.netacad.com. Okay, this will take me to the Cisco website. Okay. All right, now first thing I need to do is log in. Now you've got a login credential that has been sent to your email. So the first time you log in to Cisco, and if you've logged in before, then you know your user ID and password. But if you never have logged into Cisco, then here's how we're going to do it. We're going to click on login, and then we're going to type in our school email, which in my case is jrlee28@mail.edu. Okay. And then it's going to ask me for my password, and my password is already in there because I've logged on this computer before. So then I'm going to log in. Okay, now I've got a bunch of classes here. You're only going to have one or two or maybe three at most. And so what you're going to do is pick the one that you're currently registered for. This is CCNA 2, Switching, Routing, and Wireless. This is CCNA Introduction to Networks. So I'm going to click on this one. This is the class for Net 125. Okay, so you're going to come up with these modules here. And so I'm just going to click on the first module. Okay, and all the modules kind of are laid out the same way. They start out with like 1.0, 1.1, 2.0. You know, they're divided up into different sections. Okay, but what I wanted to show you was under the introduction, if you look down here where it says 1.03, download and install Packet Tracer. We're going to click on that. Okay, now that you're at this page, we're going to download. Okay, and click on that. Okay, so looking under Learning Resources, step one, download the version of Packet Tracer you require. Okay, if your machine is a Mac, you're going to use this one. If you're using Ubuntu Workstation, you'll use this one. But if you've got a Windows machine, you'll use this one, Packet Tracer 9. Okay, and it says, do you want to install this thing or save it? Yes, I do. Okay, so now we're going to download. And hopefully you've got a good Ethernet connection, and so your download is going to go relatively quickly. And you know, on this particular machine, I can't remember if I've got Packet Tracer 8 or Packet Tracer 9, but we're soon going to find out. Okay, patience while this thing downloads. Okay, download complete. All right, let's see if it'll let me go ahead and open it. Double click. Yeah, sure. I accept the terms of this agreement. And I'm just going to let it install to program files. That's perfectly fine. You can put it wherever you want to. Packet Tracer. Create a desktop shortcut. Yes, because I'm going to be using this thing over and over again. And now I'm ready. Install. And my computer is a pretty fast one. This particular machine has a Ryzen 9 processor. And a relatively fast SSD drive. Okay, finish. And I'm going to leave this checkbox because I'm going to go ahead and launch it. Okay, now when it comes up and it says, would you like to run multi-user when the application starts? The only time you'll ever need to do this is if you're in a laboratory situation where you have one or two other people that you're working with, and you're all going to be sharing the same packet tracer, doing like a collaborative project. But if you're just using this by yourself, which we generally are, you're going to click on no. Yeah, sure. Okay, I'm going to click on this, keep me logged in, so that I don't have to keep doing this over and over again. And now I'm going to log into Packet Tracer. And it says you have successfully logged in. You may now close this tab. I'm just going to drop it down. Okay, and now I'm going to move my little box over a little bit so you guys can see better. Okay, so now I've got Packet Tracer running. Now, a lot of times what we'll have is Packet Tracer assignments that are pre-programmed for us. In other words, the routers and the switches are already in place, and all we have to do is make modifications to the existing topology. But if you want to just open up a blank Packet Tracer and just play with it a little bit just to see how it works, which I would highly recommend. Okay, you see down here in the corner where it's got networking devices, and then you've got routers, switches, hubs, which aren't really used anymore, and then you've got wireless devices. Then you've got security appliances, which we will use in networking 2, I believe. We'll take a look at some of those. And then we got WAN emulation. So you can set up like a pretend internet connection. All right, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab one of these routers, put it here, and then I'm going to click on switch, and I'm going to take a 2960 switch and put it here, and maybe another one, put it here. All right, now if I want to connect these devices, oh yeah, I might also need some end user devices. I'm going to click on that. Click on end devices. A lot of your labs are going to involve connecting PCs and laptops. So it'll say, like select 3 PCs. And then you can rename these things if you want to. And I can call this PC1. And I can rename this one down here to PC2. And rename this one to PC3. Just to keep it a little bit more. Because, we typically think in terms of 1, 2, 3, not 0, 1, 2. Although 0, 1, 2 is how computers think. Now, if we want to connect these devices, I'm going to click on this little orange lightning bolt here. And a lot of times it'll tell you in the lab, it'll say connect PC1 to switch port 5. So you'll click on this straight through connector and connect to a fast Ethernet port. And then over here on this switch, we're going to connect to port number 5. And then we'll connect this guy to port number 6. And then we'll connect this guy to port number 24. Okay, now typically if we're connecting a switch to a router, we're going to use our gigabit connections. Now sometimes these devices that you'll use, they will have what's called auto MDX. In other words, the ports automatically know whether they're straight through or crossover ports. And so for those, it won't really matter if you use a straight through connector or crossover connector, but some devices don't have auto MDX, so be careful of that. Now with this particular device, if I select a crossover cable and connect to gigabit 1, and then to this router, connect to gigabit 0, okay, see how those are red triangles? That's because the port hasn't been activated. By default, the ports are all activated on the switches, but the ports are closed by default on the routers. So you have to go into the router and you have to give it an IP address, and then you also have to enable the port, and then these things will turn green. And we'll do that later. I'm going to connect gigabit 1 to gigabit 2. Now you'll notice my router, if I'm looking at my ports, these ports are down, but I know that I've got them connected. And that really, that was all I wanted to show you as far as starting Packet Tracer and being able to take devices and connect devices to a basic simple network. And wasn't intending this to be a long video. Believe me, I'll have some later in the semester that will be really long and really boring. So anyways, for right now, just obtain Packet Tracer and play around with it a little bit. And your first Packet Tracer assignment is going to be Packet Tracer 1.0.5. And it's going to step you through what you need to do. And if you get stuck, I've got a video on that on my channel. And my video channel is Network 83. So if you look for Network 83, then you'll find some how-to Packet Tracer videos and a lot of other stuff too. Okay, so that's it for right this minute. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I appreciate it as always, and I will see you in the next one.